guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
Oh, we aren't live yet.
And now we're live. Again, like last week, to our audience, this will be another short show cut to halftime. I guess, guys, just keep on talking about what happened this week regarding what we're talking to.
Okay, so before... Go ahead, Mark. I'll let you...
No, you can do it. No, I was just saying, like, we were talking about Trump's website. I'm going to say supposedly, but I think it's confirmed just now that his website was defaced. And for the rest of you.
Yeah, it was defaced for about a few minutes. They said that the website was compromised in the About Me section. It was basically an SQL, I'm pretty sure. And basically what they did was change the About Me page to a fake website showing the FBI, said the FBI seized the website. Kind of funny, but then they said that they had proof that Trump was behind the COVID pandemic and that he had orchestrated it with China and all this other shit that they said. And they said they had data on it and that Trump was involved in interfering in the election with other countries, and they had proof on it. And then it basically had two Monero addresses, one to release the data and one to keep the data hidden. So, they ran like a Monero cryptocurrency scam on Trump's website. But then the other... more serious hack was just announced today, where they said that the Republican Wisconsin Party had been hacked and they stole $2.3 million that was going to be used for pushing Trump in the Wisconsin state, which is a battleground state. So there's been some interesting hacks happening this week.
Yeah, and the site votedonaldjtrump.com, the voting button didn't work anymore. It was having like a denial of service attack.
I didn't know that one.
Yeah, one of the anons posted it, and I think it was an Indonesian crew attacking it. I'm not a big fan of that. Elections have to be as open as possible, even if you don't really believe in it anymore. Stay away from that. You can expose a lot of dirt about politicians and the truth and all these facts, but allow people to vote at least if they want to. Yeah, they know that. I told them so. Whatever.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it was Annans that did it too. In my view, I don't know. It could have been a nation state, but it kind of looks like it's something that Annan would have done.
Got it. I mean, they're really against all these policies and racism and all these things, all the things that which are happening. Yeah, but elections, people have to be able to, give their vote, no matter who they vote for. This is their right to vote, and even if you don't believe in it, at least don't take it away for them. I mean, that's my personal opinion. I mean, I don't speak for anyone, so whatever.
No, I definitely agree with you on that. Even though, I don't think voting is anything. Like I view it as two parts of the same double-headed dragon, so to speak. But I mean, people want to vote, then I don't think anybody should prevent them from voting. I don't care if it's against Trump or who it is. I mean, it's just the principle.
Yeah, I just keep somewhat of an illusion of democracy up, right? I mean, before we enter like total fascism publicly.
Oh wow. Uh, Anybody paying attention to Aubrey Cottle the last day or two?
No.
Kicked on her,
Yeah, he's full on going after QAnon.
Yeah, there was an official anonymous press released, I think it was early today or yesterday, against the QAnons. And well, it's going hardcore now, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's also several law firms that are trying to go after them and the hosting site. Because the site Achan or Acon was hosted, I believe, in the United States when some of the shootings went down, which means the owner slash admin would be responsible for the crimes on that site due to a law I think that was signed in 2019. So I'm not sure at this point if there's any federal criminal indictments against them, but this could still be fought in a civil manner, and there could be money to the victims or wherever that is going after them. But I seriously I don't understand why Vanwa Tech is still giving them it's not Cloudflare. It's something similar, but Vanwood Tech has been offering them, protection against certain kinds of attacks, and they're U.S. based. And I don't know. I think Kim or whatever his name. I think he really doesn't give a fuck what other people think about him or the sites that he's protecting, but the site's been linked to what was it, like 4 or 5 mass shootings? Am I right? I don't know what the tally is at this point.
Well, they reported on them, yeah, and people were making bad comments. But right now, they're going to take down their ARIN contact info to where nobody can find them on the internet. And 8chan's fixing to go out, and there's a big thing in California about it too. I just posted a link up. I don't even know how we missed it. This happened on the 20th. There's over 4,000. Yeah, there's more than 21,500 IP addresses associated with 8chan, and they're going to unlist them so none of the search engines can find them.
Well, their backup plan is to get on is to get their website on LokiNet, which makes absolutely sense.
Why didn't they just use Tor by now?
That's exactly the same thing. That's exactly what I'm saying. Like, I don't understand why so they can have a .loki thing, so they can look like they're more Nazi-ish than they really are. I don't know.
Well, okay, so 8chan, like, the thing is, it's always been a harbinger for Nazis, and it's always been a harbinger for child pornography. Years ago, it was flooded with it constantly. Like, it's so ironic that Q even went to 8chan, because 8chan, there was always that whole thing of where people would say, have a cheese pizza, and then they would post child pornography on 8chan. So, I mean, that's been well known for years. And as far as, like, everything goes with, like, mass shootings and shit like that, 8chan at one point in time had a high scoreboard, if you remember that. You remember that?
Yeah,
not really.
I do a little bit.
All right. Well, so I'll just explain it. So basically, people would post, and there has been a number of mass shooters who did this. They would post on 8chan that they're about to go do a mass shooting, and that they were going to pass the high score of the last person. It was like a game. It was like a LARP game, but it actually involved killing people and injuring other people. But for the longest time, that was on 8chan, and everybody fucking knew it. I mean, like, you can Google it and look it up. I mean, I'm sure you can find it. The Virginia shooter was one of them that posted on there that he was about to go do a mass shooting and then went forward with it. Do you want to say something, Mark?
No, go ahead. No, I'm just spreading the show.
Okay, because I saw you like pressing your mic down and like signaling me or something. I don't know.
No, it's like okay. So I have to give the OPSEC away. I use the shift button, right, to speak. So I am typing on.
That's not really OPSEC. I mean, like, I don't consider that OPSEC. Oh no, he uses the shift key to speak.
So okay. So for transparency, then, yeah, that's it. So I'm just writing here some stuff, but just go ahead. I'll speak when I.
All right, so the Virginia Tech shooter, right? He used 8chan prior to the shooting. He said that he was about to go do the shooting, and there was another one more recently that I think it was a New Zealand shooter.
Yeah, that was the most.
New Zealand shooter. Yeah, the New Zealand shooter. He said he was about to go do it, and then he did it and recorded it and posted it on 8chan. That's the thing. Like, it has been used that way in the past couple of years, and they haven't done anything about it. Like, they just ignore it, and it's like, it becomes an issue of do you support free information? Yes, but should they control information like that? I mean, should they prevent people from harming other people or injuring other people? I mean, it's a moral issue, an ethical.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, well, they're trying to.
Go ahead.
They were trying to just say that they're the only First Amendment site there is, even though he's Jim Watkins. They're trying to claim is QAnon, but I think me and Tyler talked about this earlier. When he went to Washington to testify last September or whatever, the Alphabet agencies probably twisted his arm because it's not just one person posting that stupid Q shit.
Well, how about like this Jerome Corsi and some Alex Jones people saying they were Q?
Oh, the Alex Jones is about as serious as Batman being the ultimate crime fighter for America. It's made up, Yeah.
Well, at this point, I mean, Alex is just desperate. Like, he's fucked. He's so fucked.
Next thing, he got Alex Jones last year. I don't know how he made the case disappear, but he was getting into trouble with his ex-wife, and there was a DUI charge.
Yeah,
and it went off in the media like because he was a good old self-established Southern boy like attitude, and I don't know what had happened, but I do know that at the same time his ex-wife was trying to take away custody of him because she said she didn't feel safe with the kids around him.
Well, he was sued. He was sued for that. He was trying to get his custody taken away, and then there was a case of where child pornography was planted on documents involving the Sandy Hook thing. Obviously, that was a hack, but so he had a lot of shit that was going on. But the thing is that I say Alex Jones is fucked he's like censored from like every social media. Like they literally have like built him into a box, more so than anybody else. But you know, like he was just on Joe Rogan this week, and people like flipped the fuck out over it. I don't know if you guys saw that or not.
You know, he also had Kanye on the week before, and Kanye was, from the excerpts that I got, Kanye was normal for the first hour, and then just went kind of crazy, again.
Well, yeah, he talked about Bitcoin and everything. Kanye West did.
Yeah.
But Alex Jones, I mean, he was on and talking about vaccine dangers and shit, and people like took it as, oh, this guy's promoting anti-vaccines, and it's like, people are so fucking closed-minded. But I mean, it's like, yeah, Alex Jones, but you know what he was like talking about is legitimate information, and that's what people don't get. It's like Alex Jones promotes some legitimate information, some disinformation, and some misinformation. Like,
Let's just say he's not going to be banned for the disinformation or acting weird on the air. It's just not what he's going to be banned for. He's going to be banned for the information they don't want out.
yeah, well, I mean, he was talking about vaccine dangers and everything, and he was talking about how the polio vaccine caused people to have cancer and die, which is a legitimate fact. There's another thing that how vaccines cause polio in some South African country. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. I posted that personally myself. That's from mainstream press. But the thing is, like, you know, people see that and they're like, oh, he's promoting anti-vaccines during a pandemic. And it's like, oh, Jesus Christ, people are so stupid.
Yeah, you're right. It's actually true. More polio cases now caused by vaccine than by wild virus. And it's actually on ABC News too.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, exactly. It's fucking insane that people are so stupid that they think, oh, you're criticizing vaccines, you must be anti-vax. No, it's called being conscious of vaccine dangers. Like, it doesn't mean you're fucking anti-vax. It's so stupid how people think. Like, they think in like a two-dimensional way, you know, like when the rest of us are thinking in a three-dimensional way. If that makes sense at all.
So many just
Well, what I was going to say is, aren't about like something like 85% of the people that die from the flu got the vaccine?
What? What'd you say?
Oh, I see where you're going with that.
No, I think about 85% of the people that die from the flu got a flu shot.
Yeah, if it works so good, what's the problem? Or is it time release? It only lasts.
That's something that Alex Jones kind of said too. Is something about like 85% of people who die from the flu got the flu shot or something like that. Which I don't know if that's fucking true. I have no idea. I didn't check that up, but like that's something that he mentions.
Yeah, I did check it out, and that was probably a couple years ago when I heard that, and I think I read it somewhere on the CDC site is actually where I got it from. I damn sure don't listen to Alex Jones.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I'll tell you where he really went wrong was when he decided that he was going to get political and back in political candidates like Trump. When you do that, it usually goes bad because politicians are so screwed up and end up screwing you every time. it's usually a bad thing to do. Now you lose credibility for being nothing more than, a partisan.
Well, where he fucked up is the whole Sandy Hook thing, and letting Wolfgang, what the fuck is his name? Wolfgang Amadeus. I don't fucking remember his name.
Helbig.
Helbig, yeah, him. Letting him go on and talk about Sandy Hook, and then basically saying that, this is what Alex Jones believes, when in reality, and I dislike Alex Jones, but in reality, that's not what Alex Jones believes. That's what he gave a platform to. So he was able to speak about it, and then he asked him questions based off of it, and and then he basically pushed that narrative.
Well, the guy is supposed to be some kind of investigator and familiar with things like that before, investigations of that
Right.
type.
Well, yeah, you remember he got his big, calling, so to speak, from infiltrating the Bohemian Grove. But a lot of people think that was fake.
Oh no, that was the 100% real. That it was not fake. That's the cremation of care and all the stuff that they did up there. That was a legit
No.
ritual.
No. Right. No. A lot of people think that it was fake, that he infiltrated, and that he basically wasn't allowed, he was allowed to go in there, essentially.
Oh, I don't know, because if you watch the end of the video where he was recording, he was where nobody was. He was on a hill behind the viewing point. So I imagine if he was well, I guess that kind of makes sense because he would have had a camera. I don't know. Didn't think about that, so you just said that.
Yeah, well, that's the talk of the town online, is that he faked going there, and he was just basically allowed to go there, but that he didn't really infiltrate it, because other people before him tried infiltrating and they failed, but he got in. There's a lot of security around there, and it has always been. So, I mean, who knows? But like I said, where he really fucked up was the whole Sandy Hook thing. But he promoted a narrative, and he said, he used the fact that the media has lied in the past about various different events. For instance, CNN years ago, they said that they were under attack, but they weren't actually under attack. It was actually a blue screen. And they said they were getting shot by rockets or something, and it was fake. So I mean, it's stuff like that happened in the past. He used and said, "Oh, well, they faked this in the past, so why wouldn't they fake it now?" So I don't know. That's not real good sound logic. But that's what he did. And, then the whole Sandy Hook thing, I'll say it outright. It's weird, man. That father, when he was talking about his son being killed, he was on stage speaking to the press, and then all of a sudden he has this weird smirk, and it's weird. Your son just died, and you're gonna smirk like that? That's weird. So I don't fucking know. I personally think the shooting happened, and then they either put some PR actors in, or some people infiltrated and exploited the situation. But you got to realize that, when these types of events happen, the government will try to exploit them as much as possible. So, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility to say maybe, just maybe, one or two of the people there weren't really victims, and they just were there to sell a narrative.
Yeah, I think they might have recreated a few scenes or something, but I do believe the shooting was real because I mean the follow up on it. I did a lot of investigation on it, and the gun did trace back to his mom, that kid that did it. So I
Yeah, but
still
then
have to know what all happened.
the car traced back to Christopher Rodia. It was really fucking weird. I remember when we doxed his car, like after this whole thing happened, or it was like in the midst of it happening or something like that. I don't know. We saw a license plate. We took the license plate and looked it up, and it went to a Christopher Rodia. We were like, well, that's fucking weird. Like, why is this going to Christopher Rodia? And it's like saying that the car was owned by Christopher Rodia. It wasn't owned by Adam Lanza. So I thought it was really fucking weird. But there's some weird things within that shooting, for sure. But I do think that the shooting was real. I don't think the shooting was fake at all. If anything, I think that there was more than one shooter because of how quick so many people were killed. And that's my view on it.
Well, now, why does Jones have to be getting in trouble? I mean, if you're just having this Hal Bagon, who is, like an investigator of some type, why does that all of a sudden get Alex Jones in trouble? Okay, all he would have to do is put it, well, yeah, I've brought this guy on, and or information is or is not true, and you just step away from it. Why is it such a big deal with Jones, promoting that story?
There were other people who came on and spoke about it. I can't remember who it was, and I don't know if this is for sure true, but I think Roger Stone might have came on as well and said something about Sandy Hook. I could be wrong, but I think so. Which, honestly, that just shows, if it's true, that Roger Stone is involved in spreading disinformation.
Yeah, someone says it in the chat. Alex Jones accused the families of the dead kids in the mass shooting in Sandy Hook. That it was a hoax and he's an idiot. I wouldn't wash my car. Just saying.
Well, you wouldn't trust him to wash your car?
Yeah, I don't think he will wash your car. He's not claiming that. But.
Yeah, he's fucking rich, man. He doesn't need to wash your car.
But that's the thing. He doesn't actually have to.
Well, see, that was part of the problem, though. See, he was doing when he started his show. He was doing it out of one room of his house, and then all of a sudden he started making millions, and he started to feel like invincible. And then the Sandy come out, and he did kind of run with it, and he did, like the person in the chat said, he did start to buy into the narrative a little bit, and that's really what did sink him. He jumped the shark when he started getting.
Well, wait, no. Yeah, Alex Jones was actually a TV host before he went to radio. He had a TV show, and he was under Time Warner.
Yeah,
and then when he went to radio, and then when he went to radio, he was also put under Time Warner.
Yeah. So
right, and then he started a podcast.
There's one video. Oh, I actually liked that video though. That's when he was refusing to take the fingerprint to get an ID card. He made a whole stir about that. But back then, he still had a Time Warner press card, and I was kind of bothered by that. And the Genesis Communications Network he was working for back then was an affiliate of ABC. That's what I also remember.
Yep. That's why everybody always says that he was controlled opposition, because he was basically backed by the mainstream press, but everybody thought it was like independent InfoWars. No. That was all backed by Time Warner and ABC. So, what's up with that? But at the same time, right? With like the whole 9/11 thing, he was one of the ones that spearheaded that.
The thing is that Time Warner, like this is the 90s, right? and the early 2000s, that Time Warner was also releasing these big movies like The Matrix and stuff, talking all about these systems. And they commercialized that idea a bit back then. And to also, that's Warner Bros., right? The Matrix. And also V for Vendetta, also Warner Bros. And they were running with this whole narrative a bit too, and they got a lot of attention from it. And I don't want to like necessarily put that link up, but
No, that's a good point. Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I didn't think of that.
yeah, they were running with it. Yeah. So yeah, they were like, and also like a lot of these things, these now you would call them hashtags, keywords. Back then, they were taken by Time Warner back then. So. But some of the stuff he did was actually very legit. I mean, I liked the whole video of him refusing the fingerprint because it was so early on, and now we see it everywhere. Like you need to use your fingerprint to get an ID card, to get like a passport, and they're starting with iris scans and things, and it is super Orwellian, of course. And back then he was doing it from a Christian perspective, saying like don't want to take the mark of the beast, right? And everyone's going to have to take the mark, and you had the whole theories about the chips, and we would all be chipped, and yeah, it's kind of now it's kind of like becoming like more and more real. You read more and more about it, people getting chips to do all kinds of stuff. A chip, yeah, okay, we already use a chip in our car to like buy stuff, to travel. I mean, in my country, you can't even travel without a chip. So you have a chip in your card, your OV card, your public transport card, and it is all chipped, RFID stuff. And your bank card has an RFID, your ID card has an RFID, your student cards, your library cards, and it makes sense that in the end they will make it one card with everything on it. So, and then perhaps they'll make it easier using or they already do that with that you can use your phone for it, and then eventually they will put something in your hand or in your finger, whatever. People will do it because they think it's easier and they think it's so nice, and safe.
They'll use facial recognition like China.
They will have some people like steal all these cards from everyone, right? And then say like, yeah, you can now take a chip, no one can steal it, right? Super safe. This is all people are going to back for it, that stuff. That's why I like.
I was posting that there's I posted this like a week or two ago. It's like this it's this device that if you get it close enough to somebody's fob, it'll be able to like get the fob and to be able to like clone it into another device so that you can open up somebody's car and steal it. I mean, that shit's already around. Never mind.
Yeah, I know, but it's true. It's true, and people think it's actually safer when you attach these chips into your body and stuff. But imagine it can be hacked. And I mean, these RFID things, they have, I think, 10 meters, which is like 30 feet distance, where you can actually communicate with it. So people can like, if you have like large crowds on the street, you can communicate with these cards, like mass communicate with them. And I know you already have like the wireless payment system, right? They go like up to like $50 or something. You can pay wireless. I know there are already scammers active who like walk through these big crowds with their own little PIN systems, with their own little payment processors, and they just leech money off all these cards. Well, these cards are in their pockets, right? So it already happens too. They just walk through like the large cities, large squares. You don't even have to like pickpocket them anymore. You just walk past them and you have a 30 feet distance of communicating, and you can just take the money off their bank cards because there's wireless payment. And you don't have to insert a code at all up to a certain amount. So.
Yeah, that's why they're shifting towards using cryptocurrency and using encryption. That's why you're seeing all these major credit card companies, PayPal, all shifting towards crypto now, because they realize it's like a idea bubble going off on top of their head, how much more secure it is for crypto compared to the current for crypto and blockchain compared to the current structures that we have for the financial system. So also within, I would say, the next 2-3 years, we're going to start seeing the stock market be completely tokenized. Everything's going to be tokenized online. Some of the stocks are already tokenized on some websites. So
Yeah.
Why don't they just set up a 2FA with random number generators? I don't understand. They can't put that into like a regular credit card.
well, I mean, two-factor authentication, as you know from being hacked before, it's not 100%. It's not going to be 100% secure. And if you connect the two-factor authentication to a phone number, it's even more insecure.
Oh, no, I'm talking
because-
about with the random number generators specifically.
Well, yeah, I've used like Google Authy or something like that. I mean, even that's not going to be 100%.
Yeah, I see more people get locked out with those things, especially when they malfunction. Then they actually, I've seen
Yeah,
more
and there is another
people
issue.
locking themselves out. Yeah.
And and there is another issue, and that is that they promote it as being more secure, almost like 100% secure. That's how they promote it. And this causes one legal issue, and that is that, like, if you lose your money or whatever, they're not going to like reimburse you. They're not going to, because they're going to say like, yeah, you used to FA, you did this yourself. We take no blame, right? Like, your money gets stolen or whatever, your stuff gets hacked. They won't take responsibility because you have the 2FA and stuff. And it's also an outside party. Like, if your Twitter gets hacked and you use like 2FA, whatever, and you use like whatever, like Verizon or something, like they will like say like, yeah, okay, it's Verizon being responsible, it's not us. And Verizon will say, no, it's Twitter being responsible, right? So you're going to end up with a lot of trouble. You're not going to get your stuff back. So like, this is not a Twitter issue. No, actually, your Verizon got compromised. They didn't waiver away the legal issues because they promote it as being secure. Like,
Yeah.
very smart move. People are so full of shit. Seriously. Hey, so I was spreading this this show with the hashtag Millimass March.
Oh yeah.
But
Oh, yeah, we should probably talk about that for sure because it's coming up.
People seem excited, even though some big accounts didn't spread the march this year out of fear for COVID stuff.
That's their excuse, so, compromised. Am I the only one that would say that? I mean, come on.
The Anon mask doesn't qualify as a mask.
Good point.
Really?
I mean, you're wearing a mask. Come on, man.
I mean, it's not like you can't wear a fucking surgical mask and then a Guy Fawkes mask. I mean, come on. You can wear both. No excuses for not promoting the march.
Well, yeah, I mean, if a bandana passes as a mask, surely, I mean, if you can wear that, then come on.
Well, here's the thing. These are the same fucking accounts that are promoting protest for Black Lives Matter that aren't promoting the march. Come on. Use your head. Use your head. Something's wrong there. They're compromised.
Well, that's very biased.
I don't know. Do we really care what they do? I mean, like, it's not like anyone ever.
I was like calling them out.
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
I'm like,
do we really believe that anyone ever joined our marches because they saw their posts? Right? I don't believe that at all. Like we do like full-time promotion, and these people make their own events and stuff. Like organizers make their own events and do a lot of work to invite their local friends and stuff, and local crews. They don't care really much about like 1 or 2 Twitter accounts that.
No.
Yeah.
But you know me, I just like to call people out and stir shit.
Yeah.
No, like yeah, like I dislike when people make up these excuses of, oh well, the pandemic's going on and we don't want to support the pandemic by we don't want to support the march because of the pandemic, right? That's just bullshit because you were promoting other protests. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like we're like with maybe like we will be like with between 50 and 100 guys in Amsterdam. We're each year like about that, and like in 2015 we were like super large and a lot of public attention. Now we will have like 50, 100 people. These people we march every year. We have the same crew. Everyone kind of like knows each other in that sense. Like not with the real names, obviously. Some do, but everyone knows each other. We march each year. Now these 50 people are not going to like cause a pandemic. Everyone obviously will take care of protect themselves, whatever. Like, just want to march, and this is a 1-year event, and we're not going to stop this. So it's not going to happen. Whether someone might disagree with it, whatever.
Well, if anything, these accounts should be promoting marching anyway because our rights, like, do they realize that our rights are like significantly decreasing under this pandemic? Like, fucking the UK government said that they were going to enter people's homes during the holidays and break people up. Like, wait, what did I just read?
Yeah.
Like I thought this was fake news, and then I looked at it. I'm like, oh, that's the Guardian. Like, no, that's the Guardian's website. That's not a fake Guardian website. Yeah, that literally just says that they are going to enter people's homes and break up family gatherings during the holidays. I was like, what? Like, that's crazy to me, man. Like, I mean...
Yeah, so obviously you can take a little bit more care to make sure you're not like spreading anything if you think you're at risk of doing that. But the second you accept these restrictions and these
draconian
lost.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, the second that we accept these Orwellian draconian measures, I mean, it's like your rights are fucking decreasing. Like, and the thing is, like, when this pandemic first started, right? Even though I was like saying that, you know, this is, I believe this is a bioweapon that came out of China, I still said that no matter what, whether the pandemic is an actual real pandemic or they're just overhyping it, the measures that are put in place are going to stay around after the pandemic is long gone. And we've seen like all these measures that are being put in place, from tracking to facial recognition to just draconian measures where police are going door to door and testing people. Like in Texas, I don't know if you guys saw that or not, but they were going door to door in El Paso, Texas, and making sure that the people were under quarantine and not leaving their homes. It's like hypocritical, you know. It's like, oh, so you're allowed to go door to door, but we're not allowed to leave our homes. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and they're putting these weird restrictions up too. Like, everything needs to be closed, at least here in Europe, after 10 in the evening. And I had discussions with several people. I said that this virus doesn't just come out after 10. And then they have other things like, yeah, well, it's true, right? And then they have other things like, they're no longer want to sell alcohol. I think, like, what does alcohol have to do with this entire virus? This is not how it works. It's just, these are the weirdest restrictions. And it's like, what are you doing to people? And so I actually talked to psychologists, and there's kids growing up now. These are the youngest kids, right? And they're just entering like elementary school and whatever. And they are telling them they can no longer sing, they can no longer laugh, and they can no longer sit together, right? These kids grow up with that, thinking that is normal life. They are completely brainwashed to accept this as normal life. They're no longer allowed to sing and stuff. I'm thinking like, you're damaging these kids forever. Seriously. You're teaching them no social skills anymore. You're teaching them to keep distant from other people. Like, what is that all about?
Well, I think it's about destroying the family, and it's all about state control versus the family. You know, that division, you know, sets up what you're seeing now. And then they in order to keep fractioning families, you have to keep coming up with stuff like this and scrambling up the kids. They don't know what's going on. I mean, it's a twisted plan. How they get away with it is beyond me, but it's working.
I think you just can't do that. You have to speak out about that. Especially if you look at the numbers, people below a certain age are like almost not at risk at all. Okay, so to be fair, in a virus, they're known as spreaders. They could spread the virus, right? But among themselves, I mean, if they're no longer even allowed to like play together or even sing and stuff and have fun as kids, and you're creating an entire different generation. And obviously, it has some benefits to just at a young age allow them to have fun and things and just be kids. Yeah.
Yeah, my basic tactic is to turn it on the government, you know, and I make sure I tell all the kids, you know, what a bunch of shit it is and how screwed up the government is, so that from an early age they understand what's being done to them. I feel like that's my job.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
it pisses me off. And
look what they're listening to. I mean,
yeah. And I've seen several interviews with psychologists, and they all mentioned the same thing, and that it is very unhealthy, and this is not okay. And this is one thing parents should actually focus on, to just still teach kids to have fun and be normal kids, right? Don't let these people take control over the minds of people. And obviously, this doesn't mean that you don't have to do stuff to protect others, and that you of course, obviously, you should do effort to not spread any virus, and that doesn't. That's just different from it. But some of these things are really oppressive, and it's a mindfuck towards people who have no knowledge yet about what goes on in the world, and this is not okay.
yeah, you're seeing a lot of folks here in the States getting active about, well, first it was like the LGBTQ and the, what do you call them, the cross-dressers in the library, you know, they got them really upset. But you're seeing a lot of BLM things starting to show up here really fast into the school system already. And that's raising some eyebrows, you know. I mean, I guess just pull your kid out of school, just, you know, quit the indoctrination and do homeschooling and forget it, if it's going to be like that.
Yeah, there is a percentage of people doing that, obviously, but yeah, the masses are not doing that, and I think a lot of parents don't even know what goes on at their schools, right? They just think that the teachers will always do their best, and that their kids are in safe hands and things. But yeah, you have to be skeptical and just stay vigilant on it and keep your eyes on it, what's actually happening, because this like history. If you look into history, it doesn't actually paint a good picture of what establishments do. So that a lot of stuff happened in the past, and we can't just say like, okay, everything is fine, and we can trust people in power, and we can trust education systems to be perfect. This is just not how it is. History doesn't show that. no matter what they say. I mean, as a European, I know I've read a lot about like what I don't want to even make this link, but like what the Germans did with the Hitler Jugend, right? They took the fun away from kids and disciplined them at a young age, made them completely complicit with what people in power say, and not question any authority. And you don't want these things. I'm not saying this is the same thing, by the way. Obviously, there's some health reason for it, but still, you have to, choose a middle way.
Never stop questioning authority, and that should be taught by by what happened in history with Nazi Germany. I mean, you should always question authority, and when they're doing something that is Orwellian or draconian, you should look at Nazi Germany as an example of kind of what took place in the past. I mean, I'm not saying that tomorrow or fucking in the future that Nazi Germany is going to repeat, but I mean, there could be some elements there as far as when it goes to with the surveillance state and with the police and law enforcement and stuff like that.
Yeah, in the chat we have Matthew Inman. He asked for, he said, shout me out. It's a shout out to you, Matthew. Thanks for listening.
Also, I got something that popped up. Do you know what Jeremy's getting out next month?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
He's being sent to a halfway house, right?
Yeah, I think so.
According to Free Jeremy Net and our friends over there. Or at least friends with a quote, because they literally all hate us.
A lot has happened since then, so.
Well, I won't get into it.
Yeah.
Mark wouldn't want me to get into it, but I'd want to get into it.
Oh, dude, don't listen to me. Do whatever you want.
Don't listen to me.
I'm pretty sure this episode is probably going to be censored from YouTube afterwards. By the way.
Oh yeah. We mentioned the trigger words: vaccines, Sandy Hook, fucking 9/11. Every trigger word. Anyway.
From now on, we're going to call it the cornholio.
Wait, what are we calling cornholio?
Oh, speaking of
COVID.
vaccines,
Yeah, COVID. Cornholio is going to be the word instead of COVID. We got to.
So the Sputnik 5 vaccine flopped and failed. Their initial test subjects that were testing it out got infected 4 days later after receiving the vaccine.
All of these vaccines have failed. Like every single one, you've heard deaths, failing to work, and people getting infected. Like every single one for like the past couple months with all these different tests. One actually caused somebody to die in Brazil.
Well, how long did it take humanity to come up for a vaccine for yellow fever? That almost took 50 years.
Yeah. You gotta realize, okay, since this episode is going to be censored anyway, if this virus literally did come from that lab, and it's the virus that Xi Zhengli was working on, one of the research experiments they did was they gave it to a bunch of monkeys, right? they couldn't find a vaccine for it. It just kept killing the monkeys and causing them to have respiratory damage. So, if this virus is literally the same virus that came from the lab, which I think it is, for a number of reasons, also because of the missing scientist from that university, who's no longer on the website page, and there was like academic minds from China trying to find this woman, and they couldn't find her, and she was the partner of Xi Zhengli, and she's like totally missing, cannot find her. I personally think she was patient zero. But if this virus is literally the same virus, right, they tested it to see if they could find a vaccine, and they could not find a vaccine. So if that's the case, that essentially means that there's a virus in the loose that they could not find a vaccine for, and, our only hope really is the virus gets weaker, which kind of seems like it is. It's not killing as many people anymore as it was. And the other hope is that we have a quantum leap in medical knowledge. Because, like I said, they tried to find a vaccine for it and couldn't. So that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, there's also some other things that have been going on long term since this virus has come out. I've known this from a few people I know that have gotten it. Months after being exposed to the virus, they still can't smell. Like it doesn't. It damages the. I guess I don't know what.
Nerve system. It damages the nerve system.
Yeah. This is correct. It's an olfactory.
And you want to know something? That's something. The virus that they did testing on in China with Xi Zhengli, guess what it damaged? The nerve system.
The nervous system, yeah.
Yeah. And that's facts. Like, you can look up the documents and everything from what I wrote about months ago when all this started happening. And then, even the U.S. government and the federal authorities, they even think it came from a lab too. There's reports about it too. You can look it up. And then everybody was like, "Oh, well, since the U.S. government believes it came from a lab, it probably didn't." And that's what they're just saying it, right? But the thing is, they fought that tooth and nail, trying to say that it didn't. The official narrative was at first it came from a pangolin. You remember that?
Yeah. In the chat, James Jameson asks, it may be a question for you. What's your answer to the virus, guys? How do you stop it, or don't you believe it's a real problem? And Anon Truth already gave a suggestion. Red Cult Anon, he said, get rid of it by selling it on Amazon back to Wuhan.
No, my solution. I said this about 6 months ago, and this was a gamble that the United States had faced with the polio vaccine. They knew that 1 in 1,000 people who took the polio vaccine, which was originally given on sugar cubes, would develop polio and die. But that was less than of a risk than seeing the entire United States population of children die at the same time. It was a gamble that society at that time was willing to risk.
But they did not put that out there and say that publicly. I just wanted to interrupt you real quick and say that.
I believe the vaccine maker and the president at the time was well aware of it, and it was just a gamble that they were willing to do at the time. It's just right now, can we go another 2 years like this. It's starting to get to the point where, you know, if it might work, and you inform the patient that there might, you know, this might not work, it might kill you instead, you know, I think the risk is worth than making sure that everything is safe. Because if we're doing everything we're doing right now, which is pretty much nothing, just treating the symptoms, you're still going to have the virus out there. It doesn't matter. You can, like, it's kind of ridiculous at this point, especially when the arguing points for the presidential election that that any administration could stop this virus. It's really when it comes down to this kind of shit, especially with pandemic shit, there is no government that'll be able to stop everything unless you completely isolate yourself and you're able to generate your own shit from within. And even North Korea had a problem with it. You know, people were hopping over the border somehow or another, even though Kim Jong said there was.
Oh no! North Korea said they have no cases.
Yes, that's not true. They've had a few.
Of course, it's not true. But I mean, that's what they said.
Yeah, it's absolutely not true. They've had a few, and probably those who were infected were probably killed on site. I'm not gonna lie.
Why?
And so what I'm really trying to say is that, you know, it appears it has mutated to the point where it's not as deadly, but that doesn't mean it isn't deadly. And
Well, let me ask you something. Let me ask you this question, Tyler, because you know more than I do.
what?
Is it possible for it to mutate again to be more deadly after weakening?
It's possible, but generally, from my knowledge, it usually doesn't happen that way. So I'm just guessing whatever was going around earlier this year might have killed more people because it might have been the stronger strain.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. But I'm thinking that it kind of like you had a choice of mutating stronger and being less contagious. Usually that's how it works, right? It goes one way or the other. Like it's either more contagious and less deadly, or less contagious and more deadly. Is that correct, saying that?
I'm not a virology expert, but I just know from what I know that usually it's the other way around. Usually they become less contagious. I mean, look at other things that we haven't been able to deal with. You know, HIV has been a problem for since, remember, there was a lot of words getting thrown around in the early 80s, late 70s about what HIV was there AIDS, and we didn't even come up with drugs that could even deal with the symptoms until AZT came around, which was a oncology medication, which had a lot of bad side effects, which would probably kill you just as worse as the HIV virus would. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. It was based on the guy who kind of found out about AZT. It was called The Drugstore Cowboy. You ever seen it? Anyone?
Have you seen what?
It was called like Drugstore Cowboy. It was about a guy. I think Matthew McConaughey was in it, where he was playing around with all of these drugs to try and see if he could extend his life during the late 80s with the HIV virus. And it wasn't until AZT, when he started playing around with it, that they realized that there was a potential to... oh no, it's called the Dallas Buyers Club. That's what it was. Yeah. I don't even think the antivirals were around until like the late 90s. So it was like almost 25 years until we found something that might work. You know. I'm just saying that could be a possible time frame for this shit, you know? I think, even Tamiflu. Tamiflu is something new too. They didn't have retrovirals up until recently.
You got to remember, Fauci was pushing all this stuff even back then. He was early into the NIH and some of these companies pushing some of the early HIV drugs.
Yeah.
That guy's been around a long time, man.
Huh. I mean, I'm not sure if the average citizen is completely aware that modern medicine is still it's still in its infancy stage. We don't even know how to master genetic medicine. That's how much far we are behind, and that's kind of where the end all of all diseases would happen if somebody could figure it out. We're just still in the infancy stage, so the medical science is just not there.
Yep. That's why I said it has to be a quantum leap in understanding this. But, I really do believe, personally myself, just by the research, that this being a SARS, kind of a SARS virus spliced with, what would be a neurological virus? I can't even think off the top of my head. But I believe personally that it's
there's all sorts of them.
I believe that that personally that it's a designer virus and it was out of a lab, and that it specifically is what was being experimented on in Wuhan, China. I think it's too many coincidences going around all of that stuff. I really do feel that the fact that they say that this came from bats, then pangolins, I feel that the bats was correct, and that it's like exactly what they were experimenting on in Wuhan. They were experimenting on bats. They injected a SARS virus, and it was like part SARS virus, part HIV, part something else. I forget, but I really do think that they made a deadly, deadly virus, and it escaped the lab. And there's many ways that it could have escaped the lab. It could have escaped the lab when the scientist was bit by the bat, as was detailed, or it could have escaped when the bat urinated on one of the scientists. There was 2 different incidences that happened where it could have escaped the lab, and they were both noted. Why would China note those incidences if they had no meaning? That's the other thing that a lot of people don't think about. That why would Chinese researchers note those 2 incidences if it had no meaning and they weren't worried that it came from a lab?
Yeah, I don't really know at this time. I remember they thought it was it's not a penguin it came from. They thought it was a palanquin. Remember that?
It's a pangolin, yeah.
Pangolin, that's it. I've never seen an animal. I mean, like that in my life. It kind of looked like
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, it kind of looked like a dinosaur. Like a mini little.
This is okay. All right. Well, I just got a document that answers my question. In regards to what I asked you, if it can mutate worse, right? I just got a document here that says a new variant of SARS-CoV-2 is believed to have originated in Spain and is now spreading across Europe. And it's accounting for most of the new COVID-19 cases reported in several countries in the region, according to findings of a new study. The research, which is due published on Thursday and has not been peer-reviewed, details how an international team of scientists has closely monitored SARS-CoV-2 through its genetic mutations. It says a new variant of the disease, identified as 20A.EU1 by researchers from Switzerland and Spain, has observed that the new variant recorded in Spain frequencies above 40% since July, the study said. Elsewhere, the new variant of the coronavirus has increased from very low values prior to July 15th to 40% to 70% in Switzerland. Yeah, that means it's more contagious. I don't know about deadly, but more contagious is for sure. And this is from the variant that was in Spain. Well, the variant that was in Spain was very deadly. I don't know if you guys saw those videos coming out, but I was posting them at one point in time on my former account. The U.S. is now reporting 91,530 new. Oh my God! In one day, almost 100,000 cases in one day.
Yeah, we have the highest today than ever.
Oh my God! Almost 100,000 cases in one day,
Just in the United States.
just in the U.S., with 1,000 deaths in one day.
Well, here's the deal. Like,
Well, this is
no, I just want to put this out there, right? I keep on hearing and I see on Twitter and a lot of the social media accounts that I don't know how I got it. I have no idea. I was protecting. I was like, and I was doing this. I was doing that. Well, I've been using a cloth mask with filters in it and an air vent, which they said is much more dangerous. Well, the air vent has a filter on it too. And the common thing I'll ask, is, are you sure you were wearing a mask at all time? Because I was talking to somebody who was positive for 2 hours, less than 3 meters, less than 2 meters away from them, but I was wearing a mask the entire shift. I've had 5 exposures with enough time to the point where I should have gotten it, right? But I was using standard protocol, washing my hands before and after I deal with anybody, and I was also wearing a mask the entire time. And then when I'm eating my lunch, I'm nowhere around anybody. It seemed to have worked, as with a lot of my coworkers. But what I'm saying is, when we see these numbers, I think people have gotten lapsed back into the idea that they don't need to wear masks, and the masks that I'm using, they say are not able to prevent you from getting COVID. Well, it's sure stood up the test of time, and I've had 5 verified exposures and 0 positive results. I don't know.
Oh wait. Now, it also depends on your blood type. They just now found this out, saying that if you have blood type O,
Yeah.
that you are more likely not to get the virus or not to get a severe version of it.
But my coworkers are also wearing the same kind of mask as me. So
Are you blood type O is the question. Because if you are, then that could explain why you have been exposed to it and not been able to get the virus. But there's probably also, if there's one blood type that has an effect like that, there's probably other blood types that do the same. They're just not sure what they are yet. That's the way I see it, at least. Now, I don't know why blood type would become a factor in a virus. I'm not a virology expert or anything, so I can't answer why. But these are studies that have been coming out. I don't know if they're 100% confirmed or not. I don't remember if they were peer-reviewed or not. But the initial investigation showed that people with blood type O are less likely to get the virus and less likely to have a severe version of it. So,
yeah, I don't know. I'm I'm not a virologist either. I don't know. I just hear it over and over again, and I ask people, after they've been exposed, were you doing safe practices? Of course, they say yes, 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 up and down the board. But I'm not sure if people understand what proper mask usage means. That means it has to go over your nose and over your mouth, not just over your mouth and under your nose because you have glasses on. the crease on the wire thing or the cardboard thing inside of the mask needs to be perforated and adjusted to your nose. And the mask has to be tight so there's no air gaps in between. Now there can be some on the cheeks, right? But I don't know.
Well,
As Americans getting to the point where we can't, use common sense and then try and, just like like when you're dealing with an O-ring, on a CO2 canister. If the O-ring isn't there, are you creating a good seal? No, the same should apply to your mask.
well,
Go ahead.
you gotta take into account that the president of the United States was pushing that masks aren't going to do anything. Number one, number two, you got to take into account that there's a group of people that think that this is all a hoax and that there's no real virus.
And that's definitely not true.
Well, yeah, by now everybody should realize that it's not true, but they seem to think that it's a fake hoax and everything else, and there's no real deaths happening here. And it's not to say that there aren't deaths. I'm sorry. That's not to say that it's as deadly as they say, but because I know that's what Alamo's going to say. He's going to jump in here and say that there's not a lot of deaths and all of that. But the point is that people are getting it and spreading it, and it doesn't matter if there's not a lot of deaths because it has everlasting effects on your body's neurology. It causes all types of different damage with your brain, all types of different damage with your nervous system. So I mean, it doesn't matter if it's deadly or not. It's causing long-term effects. You can jump in, Melmo.
99.8% survival rate.
Yeah. Right.
Right, but
Now tell me this. Okay, one reason that's come up again here lately is there's something that came out of the CDC saying they weren't able to do certain types of trials because they were unable to get isolated specimens of the virus. Well, surely by now, if you were in this pandemic and it is what it's supposed to be, you would have isolated virus by now, but they don't seem to. And so that's reinforcing this idea that it may not even be there. Maybe there's no virus. This is just all horseshit. Because it actually is all horseshit anyway, the response to it. But, the virus is just the virus.
see, but the other reason that they wouldn't be able to isolate it is because it's constantly mutating. And that's what a lot of people miss. And by saying, they can't isolate the virus, so it must be fake. Well, they might not be able to isolate it because it keeps on constantly mutating. And
but you're telling me that there's a virus. And
wait, the CDC says that they haven't isolated it. Other countries have. There's been Australia was one of them, and Switzerland is another.
Why would CDC not be able to get samples?
I don't know. I mean, it could be double speak too. I mean,
Yeah,
for all
they're known for that. I mean, you can look up reports from those guys, and you can get masks are good, you can get masks are bad, and you shouldn't be wearing them. It's just like Trump statements. He says this, and he'll say just the opposite. I mean, you can get them saying anything you want because they tell you anything. The thing is, behind the scenes, what are they actually doing? They're locking you down. They're continuing.
Well, behind the scenes, behind the scenes in January, I said that basically there was a secret meeting between the Trump administration and the high-level officials where they said this thing was airborne. And then, it comes out, what? A couple weeks ago, I think, Bob Woodward's the same shit. Like I said that on ABB back in January. And yeah, like
Well, because these media people have to drag this out. They can't, you might be able to think through a problem and have everything solved in 15. They have to drag out the conspiracy for 6 to 9 months. So they can't be having solutions right away, like what this really means. Can't talk about that.
see, like I don't think that way. I think that because of the way this happened, and you got to think like the way that China themselves covered this up, okay? Because every government is corrupt and runs cover-ups, right? The way that China responded to this and covered it up, right? Trying to blame it on a bat at a fucking food market, right? The way that they covered this up, it tells me there's something more there. There's something wrong. And why would China basically cover up something like this, and then all the other countries get involved in that? You know, like, it doesn't make sense. Why would they cover up something that China did, right? Why wouldn't they try to expose China for it? Unless it was a serious thing where it's a bio incident. Then it would make sense. But even Trump's comments, like Trump has said some pretty weird comments where it's like, I get where a lot of people hate Trump, right? But he said some pretty weird comments at China, directed at China, where he's kind of hinted at it in the public that they were responsible for it and that it's something bigger than what we're kind of being told about. And now, you know, you could think whatever you want about Trump, right? But he's the one that's being briefed secret information on all this shit. He's the president of the United States, right? He has that briefing of all the intelligence agencies briefing him on secret information, if you want to call it classified, whatever. And as I said before, back in January, I said there was a secret meeting, and they called it airborne back in January. I think it was January 24th, January 26th. Okay? Now, in the public, what was Trump doing? Trump was saying it was nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing. Meanwhile, they had a secret meeting saying this thing was airborne and all that other shit. Now, people didn't believe that. Now, a few months later, right, Bob Woodward comes out and says that Trump knew how bad this was as well back in January. Now, why would Trump be saying it's nothing, it's nothing, it's nothing, don't wear a mask, blah, blah, blah? It's all party politics for him, right? But he knows how bad it is. And, you know, like, he was briefed on it. And as I said before, even the U.S. government's new narrative is that it's a bioweapon from China. Even Mike Pompeo was saying it and everybody else. And like, I don't fucking want to agree with Mike Pompeo or anybody else, but all the evidence that I've seen points to it being coming from China and coming from that lab. Because there's too many coincidences there with, like, the experimentation on bats. That's one, right? 2, they were experimenting on viruses. 3, it came from that same area. Like, it just makes sense that it came from a lab. That's the way I view it. So I don't think it's fake at all. I think that, as you said, it's had a decrease in killing people, and there's a huge survival rate. But even if you survive this thing, you have permanent damage to your brain. People are having various different brain disorders, including Alzheimer's, and also permanent damage to your neurological system in your body, which, can include all types of different things. Tyler probably knows a lot more than I do about that, but it has a huge survival rate, right? But as I said, it's an everlasting effect.
Oh, dead air.
I was waiting for somebody else to say something.
Yeah.
I was just for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, we talked about this COVID stuff so much again, but the thing is, whether we deal with a real virus or not, I'm not saying that the virus is not real, but I mean like with a really that it's as dangerous or deadly as they say it is. The measures they're using against us are not the correct ones, I think. So, like I said, bars closing at 10, well, pretending that the virus only comes out after 10, right? Or teaching kids not to sing in school. That's what they do. Like, they teach these young kids, they can no longer sing or laugh together and stuff. That's really insane to me. And they're now saying like they should ban alcohol, for example. It has nothing to do with the virus. So that's what I'm more worried about. Like that they have other motives to actually fight, restrict us in a certain way. It has nothing to do with this virus and the whole digitalization of currency. I remember these days was that early on in China and Wuhan area, they were literally burning cash money and saying the cash money was spreading the virus, right? And these are the kind of things that make me like really skeptical about everything. And 2 weeks ago, they said in our media in the Netherlands, they said this virus killed the flu. All right. And then they released a thing of the symptoms, the symptoms of the flu and the symptoms of the COVID. And the symptoms were exactly the same. Everything, like the cough and the pains and everything. And
we got
Tell me.
dropped from our.
YouTube.
We're something between my connection and the server went down for a second. I don't know what the hell was going on.
I'll tell you what it was. We've said the CV word too much, and YouTube was like, nope, not allowed to have these guys live.
Yeah, we're
Disconnect.
losing this show anyway. If people listening to this, we're going to lose this show anyway. The last time we talked about COVID, we lost the show, and they said it was automated screening of any COVID-related content, and we didn't. We weren't complying or something. And I was able to, try to get it back on. It only was back for like 1 day, and then it said we broke the terms and conditions. So I'm not sure. They don't like this in any way. I'm just going to say it again. It was probably because we said vitamin C is healthy for your immune system, and
That's
triggers
fucking
everything.
something Foxy said. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, but it triggers some algorithm because there are like if you search for vitamin C and the coronavirus or whatever, they have like these articles that say, yeah, it's a hoax, it's fake news. You can't say vitamins are healthy for your immune system. It's not a cure for COVID. Never said it's a cure for COVID.
What
It's
are they saying the fucking cure? It's to strengthen your immune system to fight it.
yeah,
How stupid you are.
Yeah. So I was arguing. So I argued with the fact checker, and they replied to me too. And I pointed them to all kinds of research, even research against against other coronaviruses, right? And proven research, and literally from the U.S. Library of Medicine and stuff. I quoted all of it to them, and then at the end, I no longer got a reply. So.
Of course, because they're fucking retarded. Oh, wait, I can't say that.
No, we're losing this episode anyway. Say anything new. Seriously. And we can't say it on Periscope, and Periscope is not banning us. So.
Well, I can't say that word anyway, but you get my point. Like, they're stupid. Like, they're so dumb. Somebody twisted, like, I'll never fucking forget it. a scientific article warning that asteroids could cause an airburst above the Earth was twisted into, oh my God, asteroids are going to hit the Earth, and they did it for fucking clicks. And then in the end, they only harm me, and they don't get fucking shit for it. And that's the thing, like these fact checkers, right? We're coming for you. You're going to lose your jobs because we're going to stop using Facebook and Twitter and everything else. We're building alternatives. You're going to get left behind. Fucking pisses me off, man. These fact checkers are so stupid. They don't even understand how to use a search engine. Like, if you can't use a search engine, you should not be able to be a fact checker. That's all I got to say. If you can't dig up, like if you can't deep dig documents on a search engine, you should not be able to be a fact checker. It's just ridiculous. Dead air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently, I like shocked everybody.
Right.
Sorry.
Okay, yeah. So we discussed the whole COVID stuff, I guess. I mean, yeah.
I mean, I guess we did, but I mean, it's becoming a crazy situation now. I mean, there's almost 100 cases a day in the U.S. Do you understand how crazy that is? Anybody who says the flu, anybody who compares this to the flu now is not very bright.
Yeah.
So we talked about the Trump sites getting hacked. We talked about the COVID stuff, and we talked about Million Mass March. And just a reminder, like we're all marching on the 5th. There are some anon accounts that don't promote it this year because they're afraid of the COVID stuff. We're marching anyway. Whatever, to make sure that you don't get arrested or whatever, keep safety measures. They're looking for excuses to arrest you, whether you believe in it or not. They are looking for excuses to arrest you, and you know how they are. We've dealt with it before. There are some rumors that in America, this is about the USA, there are some local militias trying to instigate violence on the 5th. You know, like we are all non-violent protesters. Violence is an excuse for the order, for the people in power to use violence against you. So if you start using violence, then you give them an excuse to beat you up and to arrest you and stop the protests. So don't get baited into using violence. Spread your message like you do every year. Every year the Million Mass Marches are going fine. There's never any real violence except for some burning cars in London where everyone is going to be fine. Just stick to the message, right? And it will be fine. People, the media is trying to put Anonymous on the terrorist list, affiliating it with cyber terrorism, and many of us are now facing shadow bans. We lost our friend Hackdown, just lost his account today for simply spreading leaks, right? He lost his account. All of us are being censored, and if we don't show that we're actually peaceful protesters and that like everyone is just marching with us, then soon only the controlled opposition and journalism will be left on Twitter and on Facebook. We all know we all get censored, we all get silenced, And
Yep.
some can do whatever they want, right? And don't give them any excuses. So stay peaceful and take a bullhorn with you or something, right?
Bullhorn.
Yeah, you can use the bullhorn and shout. Like if you're with less people because there's some big accounts refused to promote us, then then you make sure you're a little louder. Take the bullhorns with you and some stickers, some flyers, whatever, and yeah.
Well, in general, make sure you're always with somebody at these protests. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, that is also important. If people get arrested, anons get arrested, make sure you show these police people that you are recording it and that they can't use violence against you. We will make these police and their badge numbers known to the world, right? This is what we do. So, so that's important. We've dealt with police brutality earlier this year, especially in the USA. Everyone knows.
Ongoing, actually, a lot ongoing. There's actually massive protests that have been going on in Philadelphia and in Washington just the past couple of days because of various incidences of police brutality. So, yeah, it's still ongoing. And I don't think it's going to stop. I think it'll keep going and going until police brutality ceases to exist or civil war. That's the way I see it, anyway.
Oh, dead air.
I suppose the word civil war did that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what else do you see, though? I mean, it's like... And the thing is, like, what people don't realize is that the people versus the police is basically like you going after the guard dog of the government. Like, if you're going to have a civil war, you might as well have it against the government, not the guard dogs of the government. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I honestly don't. It doesn't matter what party gets elected. There's going to be massive protests for days. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. Both sides have threatened violence. So we really don't win either way here in the U.S.
Maybe I should just go to Canada.
Well, yeah, that's looking like the option. I mean, but Canada, their laws are fucked now. I mean, there's some pretty ridiculous laws over there, from what I've heard.
Yeah, I heard.
Various free.
Yeah, I heard when it comes to immigration, like, I heard that you can have a drug charge, but if you have a DUI, it's like the worst thing that you can get.
Pretty silly.
I don't know. Like, I'm not. I've heard that from several people I've known. One guy I knew was trying to. He was doing something with the movie. I just don't remember what kind of visa he needed, but his DUI was like a big problem because he needed to be there longer than what a tourist visa would do for him. So. I don't know. Expect more chaos to ensue for 2021.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
Seriously, do you know one? Can you name one country where there wasn't a protest? I mean Greenland, but I mean, protests this year have literally gone on everywhere around the world.
Yeah.
Since,
Going on everywhere around the world. Various different reasons. I mean,
the Arab Spring was big, remember? And that went on for a while, and now people are fed up with their governments.
I thought you were just referencing this year. I mean, this year alone. I mean, it seems like every country has had a protest. Whether that's protesting against COVID lockdown or protesting against some other reason, it has seemed like every country has had protests happening. Where was the recent protest in Africa against police brutality? That was
Nigeria.
Nigeria. I couldn't remember the country. Thank you. Yeah, so I mean, like, there's been protests all over the place this year. Like, well, almost every country. Almost.
Yeah, in Tajikistan, they overthrew their government over what they called a bad election. Serbia, same thing.
Where is that country? 'Cause I've never heard of it. That's all I got to. Is that in Africa?
Which one?
You said Tajikistan?
Yeah, in Bishkek. It's near Uzbekistan, Afghanistan.
Oh, okay.
Around
Okay.
there, yeah. Stan is
Okay.
the land of. The land of the
Yeah, I remember you explained that before. I wasn't sure.
Sorry, wait, those are not Tajikistan. It was Kyrgyzstan. My bad. It's on the other side.
Oh, okay. Well, I've never heard of Tajikistan. I've never heard of that country at all.
Really?
And I'm pretty well. Yeah, I'm pretty well versed on countries. I've just never heard of that.
I guess you've never been to the stands.
I know all the other ones. I just never heard that one.
Yeah. Tajikistan. It's near Afghanistan.
Had no idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's been uprisings all over the place this year. You remember Hong Kong was beginning of the year, right? There was protest in China, right? There's been protests all throughout different Arab states. And there's been protests here in the U.S.,
Bangladesh,
there's been protests in
India,
India, and EU,
Iran.
the UK, all over the place. It's been everywhere all this year. It's like a sudden uprising of everybody all at once.
Good.
The energy that you feel from these protests, it kind of feels similar to Occupy in some sense, but it's more like a stronger. How do I say it? Like I can't think of a word to say for it, but basically. It's similar to the same energy that was going on around Occupy, but it feels like more intense, like a more intense energy this time around.
Well, people are starting to grow up and realizing, their governments are not exactly on their side, and they never have been.
That, or they're suddenly starting to realize that this is my life, and these people are controlling my life, and I want something better, and people are standing up and fighting back.
Yeah.
Because they do basically put us into a ditch of poverty, essentially. I mean, it's like they force us into poverty in various different ways, especially here in the U.S. with like the IRS and everything. The IRS, the way that it works, they tax the poor and reward the rich. So, like the rich, like if you make more than 100K, right, you only get taxed a certain percentage. After that, there's no more percentage you get taxed. So if you make like $1 million plus, you're only getting taxed for 100K of it. You're not getting taxed anymore. And I think it's like 20% after that, 100K. So it's like, they punish the poor, right, with high taxes that they can't really pay for, like I've experienced up into this year when I started making a lot more money, and I've struggled to pay the tax because you have to pay for, like if you're a sole business owner, right, you have to pay for your business expenses and then your business tax, right? So all those expenses add up. So it's basically like a system where if you don't make enough money and you can't afford to pay for it, right, it's going to create an effect of poverty over time, because you're constantly going to have to be put on a list for the IRS to, pay for fees monthly for whatever you owe and whatever not. And then if you can't pay it, it keeps on like going up in debt. So, I mean, especially here in the U.S., it's a poverty system, and other countries as well. I mean, there's other countries where the governments just basically steal money from the people. Like especially a lot of African nations.
Yeah.
So I think it's just people are tired of being poor and stuck in a cycle of poverty. Like they're just going to realize it's like, I'm working a 9 to 5 every day. My boss is getting paid this, but I'm the worker that's doing all the work for the company, like something like that in some sense. I always used to think about that, like the workers would have essentially a hard labor job, right? And then the business execs, they have the easy job, but they get paid ridiculous sums of money, while you as a worker are the ones basically running the company. Without you, unless they replace you with robots, right, they wouldn't be able to deliver products. So, anything else we have to talk about?
Let me see. Let me go down the list. Oh yeah, Trump suspended refugees from 3 countries today.
I missed. What were the countries?
One of them doesn't make any sense to me. Somalia. Okay, Syria, Somalia, and Yemen. I understand and the Yemen part because there's an active war going on, but northern Somalia has declared itself its own country, autonomously, even though the United Nations doesn't acknowledge it as its own country. They even have their own money at this point.
I can tell you why.
Why?
You want to know why? Because the Pentagon recently just put out a report saying that ISIS was infiltrating Africa, and Somalia was one of the countries. And considering it was after today's terrorist attack in France, which I don't think we even talked about either, today there was several attempted attacks in France. Some were stopped. One was attacked. What attack? That's not right. Wrong verbiage. One happened in Saudi Arabia's consulate in France, where a guard was stabbed. Another happened in a church. And there was an attempt for one on a subway and an attempt for one in another church. And they stopped the other two. Macron came out and he said that basically these were terrorist attacks that were in retaliation for Macron standing up for Charlie Hebdo, the old satirical magazine that was printing Muhammad cartoons, right? Apparently, they reprinted the 2015 cartoon that ended up having the whole entire office shot up. Do you remember that back in 2015?
Yeah.
And and Macron just recently stood up and said that, or praised, I should say, he praised a teacher who was using the material to teach freedom of speech, and the teacher was beheaded on October 17th in his classroom. So there's been some very interesting things happening in France lately. And Macron is now actually blaming the immigrants for this, because the person who beheaded the teacher was an immigrant, and the person who just today did an attack was an immigrant. So it's very interesting what's going on, because you remember how with France, Macron was saying that he was pro-immigration, and he was saying how who was that lady in France that was running for president against Macron? Le Pen. He was saying how she was a racist because she wanted to close the borders. And now he wants to close the borders because of these recent attacks. And he's now put France on a high alert, maximum alert, the elevated level of terror. So it's very interesting what's going on right now.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's kind of why I think Trump has designated countries that he wants to block immigration from, and the countries are Sudan, Somalia, and what was the last one?
It was Syria, Somalia, Yemen.
Syria, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Because those three countries are all kind of terror zones, so to speak.
Anything else we forgot?
I'm looking up the headlines right now to look to see. 1 second. Just distract from me.
Oh,
I was
got
distracted
4
a bit
minutes.
too. How much time do you have left, Tyler?
Like 4 minutes.
4 minutes? Oh my
Yeah.
God. Okay, well, Million Mask March is soon. Just a reminder to people on the 5th. Search for Million Mask March hashtag on social media. We have a list of events, a page bin, right? There's a Discord server where they all talk. There's about 3,000 members in it. They're really excited, all these people. If you can't find the march on a list, search on whatever social media for Million Mask March. Your city name, just replace that with your city. And if there isn't one, you can still always create one yourself, even though it's a little late, but that is not unusual that events are created last minute. Try to find a big city, and you can go into the Discord and they will help you promote it. Feel free to contact any one of us on this show. I mean, you can see this show being promoted on some social media. Contact myself or anyone on this panel, and we will help you promote it. I mean, Million Mask March, our yearly event, it's trying to make the best of it, I guess, and hope next year will be better. Again, but yeah, that's all I really wanted to say. And if you care about this show, I mean, all of us get shadow banned. Please share it for us. Use on Twitter, use a quote tweet. I mean that then you show up in the search, and our tweets, which are shadow banned, only show to people who actually follow us. So if you do a quote tweet, you're actually helping us like really, really well, and that's what we need right now.
Yeah, it's pretty insane how the level of censorship that Twitter has gone against our accounts. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, seriously. All right, we have 1 minute left. Anybody want to call it?
Oh, Alamo has to say, or oh, he's muted.
Can't even hear us.
All right, well, I'll say it for him then.
Yeah.
Remember to spay and neuter all politicians and lobbyists. I don't remember what else he says.
And we'll end it with that.
I hereby declare this to be an unlawful assembly.